What's been different for Oklahoma in these last two games compared to how they were playing before?
I think over the last 3 weeks, I saw where they're like second in the country in offensive efficiency. So I think, they're playing, you could almost say 5 guards, guys with perimeter skills, all effective, all impactful, guys that are, somewhat dynamic. And I think they're playing with a lot of confidence. I mean, if you look at their season, they've had some really tough losses, right? You guys all know, like at Missouri, Alabama at home. I mean, they've been right there at the door, and I think them breaking through at Vanderbilt, which we all know is a really good team on the road, and beating Georgia, at home has given them some momentum, and I think they still feel like, based on the SEC and the opportunities they provide in quad one wins, that they're coming in here confident and knowing that this is a game that would be great for their resume.
Does it speak to the depth of the league that you can go from a 9-game losing streak to going on the road to beating one of the better teams in the league?
Yeah, and I think that's been the case. I've had these conversations with cohorts and friends and peers and around the country that our league from top to bottom is, I think, in Ken Palm or whatever, considered the best. But I think teams that, quote, most people think, at least, I'd say outside of Florida has merited the accolades of being a team that could win it all, that the Big 12, the Big 10 have shown, particularly maybe the Big 12, Big 10's been really good too, but at the top of the league, right? And we can look at that through analytics as well, that they've shown that they have the teams that have probably at this point that have the best chance to make a run. But we all know how the tournament can be and whatever, and you just want to be playing your best basketball near the end of the year.
Hindsight's 2020 right now, and obviously you guys feel like you should have won the 2 Kentucky games and maybe that Arkansas game on the road. But coming into the season, you don't know much about this team, what this group's going to look like together. If you go back to before the season, you're 8-4 right now. How do you feel like that shakes out for where you realistically should be as a team?
Well, I think you are what your record is. We just talked about Oklahoma and why they couldn't get over the hump, why we couldn't get over the hump in the games versus Kentucky or some other games. It's a matter of, just having that possession or 2 back where you feel like, or possessions that you didn't take care of business and maybe play to the potential or the expectations you have for your own team. But, we are where we are. And, we know we have a really tough opponent coming in here. The record may not indicate that, but we know it. And we're going to have to play really well to win this game on, tomorrow night.
How would you assess JP's growth defensively, rebounding the last couple of weeks since y'all been given?
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. But I think JP, rebounding-wise, been great. He's an excellent offensive rebounder. We've talked to him about defensive rebounding. That's an area he knows he's got to improve in and, look to get his hits, blockouts earlier, and then release, go get the ball. Got a great nose for the ball on the offensive board. Defensively, he's still got a ways to go. We talk about it all the time. He's had some great moments where he's proven that he can switch and guard the basketball, but it's just, getting him to understand to square up on the ball, play to his length. We talk about the 3 C's a lot with our big guys, all our guys, but particularly guys that can play to their length like him. Cushion, contain, contest. That's it. And if they make it, they make it. But you can't open the gate, can't let them get an angle, can't be undisciplined, can't reach in, got to stay vertical, on and on. And he's not the only one we got to get to understand that. But JP's a guy that we're trying to get to understand that. And if he can do that and maintain those principles, I think he'll be an effective defender.
What stood out about what the front court did against LSU on Saturday?
I'm sorry, I missed the first part about the front court.
What your front court did on Saturday?
We did what we've been doing, and knock on, is there any wood around here? Knock on wood. I think that we have continued to offensive rebound at a high level. And the thing that, I think Coach and all of us are happiest with as a team, as a staff, is that we have gotten better defensive rebounding. We are taking care of the board, hopefully giving one shot, and giving us a chance to get out and run because we have been really effective in transition. So I think the front line is playing to their size. This sounds like a simplistic, ridiculous, but I thought at the beginning of the year, we are big, but are we going to play big, right? We have the size, we look at it, our physical attributes are there, but are we going to play to it with the mentality? And I think we started to do that.
What's maybe the message to like Troy and Amari in terms of being consistent every game?
Just what you said, being consistent every game. That we talk about, one of the things I've learned over time in basketball, that great players and great teams don't pick possessions to compete. Does that like resonate with everybody? You know, you can't say, I'm going to be great in this sequence, in this possession, and then I think I'm going to take a break. We've had guys here that have proven that the first recipe works, competing every possession. And for young guys, I think that's really something that's difficult, particularly when you are cardioed out, when you feel like, I got to get a break, I got to get a blow. Well, we can't stop the game and say, yo, can you give me a whistle just for a second? I just need a break. So those guys learning to sustain, and even if it's not their best effort, I love the quote by John Chaney, who was one of the all-time great coaches one time, said, you may not be able to give me your best effort, but I got to have an honest one on every possession. And that's what we got to get with some of those guys.
Bouncing off that question, obviously, you know, Jacoby's going to get his minutes regardless, you know, but within that group of Troy, Amari, you know, and Ethan coming in and having big minutes the other night, does it seem like only one of those guys is going to have the opportunity to have a big night, or can all three kind of get in the mix with the limited minutes?
I think it would be hard to be equitable with minutes with all three on any given night. But what we're asking of those guys is really hard. To be a good enough teammate to say, hey, it's Ethan's night. It's Troy's night. It's Amari Abram, Mo's night. So, you know, I go way back for all you youngsters to when I was in my first go around in the SEC and Nolan Richardson, some of his best teams. I would be just baffled by his, because I worked for Wimp Sanderson that played 7, maybe 8. And a lot of coaches are like that. But he would play 11 or 12. And the minutes difference on a given night, to give you names would be ridiculous, right? But just some nights a guy might play 5 minutes, the next game you'd look, he had 18. But they were really good as a team. He sold team, and those guys bought in. Different era. There was no NIL. There weren't as much outside noise, but how he got those guys to buy in doing that, and I think that's something we're trying to say to our guys. We have depth. Will you guys believe it, and can you be selfless enough on a given night to cheer for a teammate?
I think we talked to you before y'all went to Vegas and talked about offensive rebounding and said, you know, it's been great. We'll see if we can keep it up. For it to continue to be at the numbers that it is, I mean, how significant and kind of rare is that?
Well, I don't know that it negates it, but when you sometimes give the ball to the other team as much as we've done, you got to make it up somewhere, right? And so that has got to stay steady for us. And I do think, knock on wood, that we're getting a little bit more conscious of taking care of the basketball. We still got a ways to go. I know what analytics says, but we do feel like at least we are now being more intentional with what we're doing. We needed to keep going to a higher standard. But the offensive rebounding, absolutely. More shots, more possessions. That's big, especially when you are not at a point where you're taking care of the ball like you know you need to. That's a big deal. And we had this talk the other day, you know, with our guys. We're there. We lead the country in offensive rebounding. But let's look back to a few games. Let's look back to the level and point out 5 or 6 teams that if we really want to make a big run, we've got to get to another level. Because what happens is, just like us, when we know another team is really a good rebounding team, we probably take it to another level or we get our blank kicked. And it's happened this year. So we still have to look at those teams that are going to walk in the locker room and that coach is going to deliver a message. Hey, we're playing Tennessee and they are And then we've got to be ready to meet that challenge. So that is our challenge.
I know you guys want to be playing your best basketball in March. Just assessing where you are halfway in February, do you feel like this team is on the path to potentially playing its best basketball this time next month?
Yeah, I mean, we've shown signs of it. I just think level of consistency, and let me say this, Coach said it in his press conference, LSU was pretty awesome the other night in here. Without 2 to 3 starters, what Matt's done with that group, you can say next man up and all that stuff, but that's only sounds good and is real when the talent level is pretty even. But, you know, when you have to dip into your bench and you're missing, you know, some real key guys, and I didn't think our response was as good as it could have been. And again, LSU was more physical. They executed. We got to be better. We got to be better. And so to say, yes, have we been playing better basketball? I'd say, yeah, we've improved. But we've got to take another step to be more consistent with what we're doing.